personal transformation that I'm going to include as many people as possible going along with me, which is called 75 Strong. Yes, it is my take on 75 hard with some modifications to make it sustainable so that we're building habits that are going to be sustainable that we can keep doing. When I announced this, I had a really good friend of mine say basically that she had broken her wrist. I believe it was an automobile accident, but that's going to keep her out of training, so she thinks, for a certain amount of time. So she asked me, what would you do if you had a broken wrist? Now, most people that I've seen answer this question, they default into doing things that are not strength related. Go on your bike. If you can run without pain, run. Do these types of activities. But if you think about it, our body has to be able to do all the essential movements in order to live a high quality life each and every day, regardless of how injured we are or how healthy we are. Now, granted, there's some injuries that cripple us, but if you just think like, okay, this joint is compromised, I can't use this joint, I can't use this hand, what if I can place all the tension just below that weak link, and now I can focus on the big movements that I have to be able to do in order to be able to do everything that I want in my life. So what are those? Well, I have to be able to push things. So there's like horizontal pushing. That's going to look like a push-up or a bench press. There's a vertical push, overhead pressing. There's pulling movements that are going to primarily be in the same planes of motion. So we have a row, we have pull downs, pull-ups, chin-ups, and all those regressions. I have to be able to squat. So when I'm standing up, I have to be able to drop down as close as I can to the ground. I have to be able to pick things up off the ground. Coaches will call hinging or common out just deadlift. Then I have to be able to do different gait patterns, which yes, will factor in. But, so if I take the strain off the wrist, what is that going to look like? So I set up some contraptions here. Based on the equipment you have, you can modify things that are going to fit as best as possible. Now I got to scoot my camera forward here. It's the only downside to my setup here. So let's talk about some pulling movements. I have to go around the wrist, so I have to load right through here, right where my forearm is. I can get people do exercises with these hanging not belts, but I'm not going to have a full range of motion like I normally would. I'm not going to be able to go all the way up, or obviously they're going to fall out of my hands, right? So, yes, the range of motion is going to be less than I am used to. Now, while I'm doing this arm is working great, so let's make it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun. Let's put my modified pull down, and the other one is a full arm movement. I love to do these kneeling. I have a lot of clients that love to do a kneeling also as I'm pulling, contracting super hard. So that's what my pull down / pull up, chin up is going to look like. Now, what does a row movement look like? Watch out, camera's shaking because I'm using my laptop. Okay, so that was probably not going to work, the one that I was just using for the pull down. So I have this other strap obviously around my forearm that I'm wearing. It's not just for fashion, although I know it looks pretty cool. But drop that weight. Now I can set up. These are probably going to be off a little bit as well. Biggest challenge we have when we're injured is maintaining the focus on how am I going to continue to do things. Because if I can maintain that focus, I'm going to think of an answer. So I just dropped that. Again, I'm going to load this elbow. Use my hand for the other one. Now I've set up that horizontal row. Turning it around for my pressing movements. A quick note on cable training. Well, really using any weight, whether it's cables, dumbbells, barbells. If it's a free weight, the force is always going straight down due to gravity. When I'm using a cable, the force is going to be going against the cable, so I need to keep my angles as best as possible. So like when I set up this chest press, just like I did with my row, you're going to see me add in a semi-lunge because I want to be pushing straight ahead. This is narrow, this is a little awkward, but I can still control it. What I don't want, if I'm standing super tall up here like this, now I'm starting to go up, and now it's becoming different than a true horizontal push. Now you might see people doing that until you're in the competitive bodybuilding world. Focus on the basics. Horizontal pushing and pulling, vertical pushing and pulling, squatting, deadlifting, throwing a couple lunge patterns. There's another machine we have over here. Let me just whirl you around here. That cable cross machine. So with this one, going back to that chest exercise, it's a lot wider. So I'm going to get more of like a fly movement type motion. So if you can go wider, in this case, since I'm loading the middle of my forearm, you might get a better squeeze. You kind of have to play around with that. Squatting, I can do one arm squats, or I'm holding a kettlebell, I'm holding a dumbbell. If you're at a powerlifting gym, let me show you this cool toy. This is a safety squat bar. There it is right there. So if I'm safety squatting, I have this pad that goes around the base of my neck. Now I can just use that arm. Oops, I should set it properly. Too distracted when I'm talking. So now I have my one hand on the bar. Now obviously you wouldn't twirl around like this if you're actually doing it, but might as well show you the front setup. So I have my working hand, and then I just have a little bit of brace here. And now I'm just practicing that deep back squat because the weight of the safety squat bar is going to be right on the top of my back. Hinging, deadlifting, whatever you want to call it, picking weight up off the ground is going to be the trickiest one. They make some specialized equipment. I will just bring you with me since I'm going over there. If anybody needs this, you can message me and I'll send you a link. I don't have this particular piece of equipment here. My first jiu-jitsu coach showed us this. Basically, it's a strap. There's a company called Spuds that sells this, but the harness goes around your upper body, and now you're not loading your wrist, your elbow, bicep. So in the case of my former coach, he had tore his bicep doing jiu-jitsu, and he had to bypass that. So now this strap, again, this is not the real strap, but you can see what I'm doing here. This strap is going to hook on to the bar to take the place of this hand, and now I can deadlift with the strap and the fully functional hand. There's an adaptive website for high-level competing athletes who only have one arm or one leg, and they have some great tools on there as well. You can see here we have a sled machine. So with the sled machine, if I was doing it backwards, I would just hook this over my back and shoulder. Low. So right here, hook it up, and now I'm basically just going to be doing backward drags. I can go to the front of the machine, I can reverse it, So it's like a messenger bag, and now I'm walking forward loaded. So that covers all the major lifts. There's one more thing I want to show you for really great leg power, hip drive, and glute development. In the last few years, well, more than that, last probably, I don't know, a little over a decade, famous PhD named Brett Contreras has really popularized the hip thrust. So some people argue it should be classified as own lift. That's really neither here nor there right this second, but I can load and roll the bar over my hips. It should be easier for most people than me. I'm a little bit thicker and taller than most. But I can walk my feet up and get my mid back right in the middle of that bench. Now, this will be my broken hand. I can hold with the free hand, put the forearm right across here. I sink as deep as I can in, drive up. And then we have, with the time remaining, accessory lifts. You know, you can hook this back up to the machine. If you get a little bit higher, get a nice bicep curl. Hook up this way, right here. Get a little tricep extension going on. Legs. Same thing, you can hook the cable up to the foot. There's this great product called a monkey foot. Most people don't have it, but anything like this that can hook around your arms or your legs. Now you can isolate leg curls, hip drives. There's one more thing I just thought of that I forgot to set up, but I did these remaining ones years ago. And an ex-girlfriend of mine was doing this as well. Through a couple of injuries. Now the question is, do you have something here that's the same? I need a weighted belt, like a chin-up or a pull-up belt. This will suffice. Rogue Cell is a great belt to load your body up, your body weight dips, pull-ups, weight across your hips. I don't have one that I thought that we had. Well, make do with this. Should work. This is a really cool way to do a kettlebell swing. You have another body injury. I started doing these because I had torn, it was leading up to kettlebell certification, my first one ever in 2010. I tore my lat because I was fasting. I was doing really long intermittent fasting, trying to lift. Really dumb idea. Videos on that later in the future. Basically, I just couldn't recover. But I took the chain that I was using to do weighted dips and weighted pull-ups, and I learned how to load my hips without loading my upper body. This guy is really cool. Probably about that long. Start light on this because you got to get the timing right. This looks kind of funny because it's a lot of hip thrusting, but it works. It's very effective to simulate kettlebell swing when I can't use my arms. So now, my lockout position is as tall as possible. So I don't want to be finishing here. I still want to be trying to fully stand up. Good statue posture. Superhero statue, like I like to tell my clients. Ear, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle all in alignment. But now I can set up and I can start using my hip momentum. The belt's adjusted right, of course. And the timing of it. And this actually improved my swing technique a lot. Some people will kind of hold down here just to kind of guide it a little bit with that wrist problem. But as I get going, this belt's going to get higher and higher. This really helps with timing as well, even if you're not hurt. Just make sure when you finish it, you let it come to a complete stop. you don't start trying to move while it's swinging, because it can go into a knee pretty easily. So I love these types of challenges. Be on the lookout. The full program for 75 Strong is coming in the next couple days. I'm gonna announce my personal launch date, give myself about a week to set up, especially for the members area, all that good stuff. So I hope that's helpful. If you have a different type of an injury or a physical restriction and you feel that it's preventing you from training, throw it my way. Let's see what we can figure out, and we'll give you some solutions so you can keep getting strong, even around any situation, any limitation, any injury. It really comes down to keeping your mind in the how do I do this mode versus I can't do blank because blank. Make a great night. Talk to you again soon.